Chapter 24. Ren's Pav. The moment that door opened and the Dwarven Herald declared, Her Majesty Rimuru, I had to engage maximum maid protocol just to keep a straight face. She stepped forward elegant, poised, radiant in that midnight black gown embroidered with gold, the dress I picked, of course, and all eyes turned to her. I didn't blame them. She looked stunning. My master, I thought with smug satisfaction, truly fits the role of the cursed noble princess turned ruler. Naturally, I walked 2 steps behind her, hands folded properly, eyes lowered respectfully like any good attendant should. But in my head, it was chaos. Lady Rimuru-sama enters the throne room, her presence alone captivating even the air itself. Ah, I chose the perfect dress. Her golden eyes glint beneath those lashes, noble yet mysterious. This is no longer just a negotiation, this is an event. A scene, a legendary CG moment. I fought to keep my expression serene as I handed over the gift list, delivering the formal greeting with the grace of 1,000 visual novel heroines. Shuna, bless her soul, was helping me carry the diplomatic weight, but I had a different mission too. Ensure that Master Rimuru didn't say or do anything remotely unladylike. She was doing her best sitting there with that perfect posture I'd drilled into her, smiling gently like we practiced. But I could see the panic in her eyes whenever someone said, Lady Rimuru, out loud. That faint twitch in her eyebrow was priceless. Hey, you started this joke, my liege. Now you're stuck with it. And I, your loyal maid, shall uphold the bit with absolute sincerity. Because it's hilarious, and I even caught her glancing at me once, just a fleeting look, as if silently pleading, Ren, stop them. I responded with the softest, most supportive smile I could muster. You're doing amazing, my lady. Just a little longer. And the best part, everyone believed it. No one questioned it, not even the king. They all addressed her with respect befitting a noblewoman. My noblewoman, that cursed princess story really had taken hold. Oh ho 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 tilde cursed royal bloodline, mysterious magical backstory, tragic elegance cloaked in mystique. If this isn't peak isekai fantasy, I don't know what is. It was hard not to squeal, but I resisted. I had to be professional. Controlled, cold, perfect, ... But starting today, I would be calling Master Rimuru, my lady, from now on. Not because I forgot he's technically male. Because it was fun. And because I'm her loyal, devoted maid, after all. Dash 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 dash. Rimuru's Pav. After the audience, everyone was guided to their assigned rooms. Ren accompanied me all the way to mine, trailing just behind with that perfect, ever-poised maid posture. I could feel her eyes on me the whole time, watching, evaluating, judging. Or maybe she was just mentally narrating this like one of her favorite otome games again. Hard to tell with her. She opened the door with a practiced flourish. Please, after you, my lady. I twitched. Ren, seriously. She gave the faintest, most refined smile. Of course, my lady. That's not even. You know I'm not. I am aware, my lady, she said smoothly, folding the corner of the bedspread with meticulous care. But it would be improper for a humble maid like myself to go against the crowd's perception. Besides, she leaned in a little. You do wear it so well. Ren, my lady. I groaned, defeated, as she glided around the room checking the linens, inspecting the drapes, lightly tapping the bed frame to ensure its sturdiness. Everything appears suitable for your rest, she announced, adjusting a pillow. But should you require anything else, my lady, such as more pillows, warmer tea, or perhaps a carriage back to Tempest, in which to flee your fate, I'll be just a few doors down. I raised an eyebrow. Few doors down. She turned, perfectly composed. Yes. The royal staff has provided rooms for attendants. I have also been invited to consult with the chief steward regarding the banquet menu. You'll want to look your best for tonight, after all. I knew it. You just want to sneak into the kitchen and judge everyone. She gasped, mock offended. I would never. I intend only to offer constructive critique as a loyal maid should. Right. I let myself slump into the soft mattress as she made her way to the door. She paused there, giving me one final bow. Rest well, my lady Tilda. I grabbed a pillow and lobbed it at her. She vanished with a soft giggle, the pillow missing by a mile. Finally alone, I flopped deeper into the bed and let out a groan, muffled by the sheets. I'm really tired. The meeting with King Gazel hadn't been long, but it had drained me anyway. Sitting there, trying not to mess anything up, letting Ren and Shuna carry the formal parts while I smiled and nodded like we practiced. It was somehow more exhausting than a battlefield. I hadn't even changed out of the ceremonial clothes yet. I just didn't have it in me. As I lay there face down in bed, the room quiet around me, a familiar presence stirred at the edge of my senses. Less than, master. Greater than. I didn't look up, but I knew who it was. Her voice was soft as ever, measured, gentle, always calm. Raphael. She approached the bed, her footsteps silent, then lowered herself beside me. There was a pause before she spoke again. Less than, you performed your role admirably. Now, allow yourself to rest. Greater than. I tilted my head a bit, squinting at her. That's why you came out. Less than, I had a reason. Greater than, she replied smoothly. Then, in one graceful movement, she sat down beside me and gently patted her lap. Less than, if it pleases you. I would offer this as your place of rest. Greater than. My brain flatlined. I blinked, then blinked again. You're kidding. Her expression didn't change. Less than, it is a logical offer. You will rest more efficiently this way. Physical contact has been shown to reduce stress and stabilize emotional fluctuations. Greater than. That sounds like a really fancy excuse for. Less than, you are already blushing. Greater than. Why? I sputtered and hid my face in the sheets for a moment, groaning. Why did she always say stuff so straightforwardly? She didn't tease. She didn't push. She just waited, her hand resting lightly on her lap, like the offer was still open. I hesitated for a long moment, and then gave in. Without a word, still burning with quiet embarrassment, I scooted closer and slowly laid my head down on her lap. Her hand moved almost instantly, threading gently through my hair. Less than, you made the correct decision, master. Greater than. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My face was still on fire. But I could feel it, my heart finally calming, my breathing evening out. Her fingers were so gentle. Her presence was steady and soft, like she was guarding this little moment just for me. Warmth radiated through her touch, calm but real. And for the first time that day, I let myself breathe out in peace. There were no words left. Only comfort. Only her. And it was enough. A gentle voice stirred me from sleep. Less than, master, it is time to awaken. Preparations for the banquet must begin shortly. Greater than. I blinked groggily, looking up to find Raphael gently brushing a hand along my temple, her usual calm expression softened by a small smile. Right, I mumbled, still nestled against her lap. Her thighs were surprisingly soft. Not that I was evaluating or anything. Less than, I've let you rest as long as possible. Greater than, she added. Less than, but Ren, Shuna, and Xian will be arriving momentarily. Greater than, I jolted up a bit at that. Oh okay, thanks. I quickly rolled off her lap and sat upright, just as Raphael gave a graceful nod and shimmered back into my body. A moment later, the door opened. Pardon our intrusion, came Ren's serene voice as she entered alongside Shuna and Xian. Her posture was flawless, eyes respectfully lowered, every movement precise and composed. It is time for the evening's festivities, my lady, she said smoothly, placing just enough emphasis on lady for me to feel it deep in my soul. Shuna followed with a gentle smile. We've brought the formal wear for the banquet, my lady. Xian stepped in proudly. You're gonna be the star of the show, my lady. Just leave the dressing up to us. I blinked. Wait a second, since when were they calling me that? I opened my mouth, about to interrupt, but Ren smoothly stepped forward and bowed. Shall we begin preparations, my lady? She said with her usual composed reverence, though her eyes sparkled with just a bit too much satisfaction. I leaned a little closer and whispered, trying to sound casual. Hey, why are they calling me, my lady, now instead of Rimuru-sama? Without even pausing in her graceful movements, Ren whispered back, her tone immaculate. I advised them it would be best to refer to you as, my lady, from now on, she said, almost too innocently. For consistency, to match your public image, enhance the formal atmosphere, and naturally make things easier during foreign engagements. I flinched. You what? She straightened my collar with a faint smile. Don't worry, my lady. It suits you beautifully. This is definitely revenge. Or a joke. Or both. They'd laid out the banquet gown, rich navy silk trimmed in pale gold, more regal and extravagant than anything I'd worn so far. Layers of translucent fabric, soft shimmer, subtle embroidery along the hem. The kind of outfit you'd expect on some storybook queen. I guess we're really going all out, I muttered, eyeing the garment like it might jump me. Without a word, Ren stepped behind me, and before I could react, I felt her fingers working at the fastening of my current dress. Wait, Ren, I stiffened instinctively as she began undoing the back of my gown with smooth, practiced motions. This is part of my duty, my lady, she said calmly, not even pausing. Please relax. I turned my head, flustered. I didn't say I couldn't do it myself. Of course, she replied coolly, but as your maid, I am responsible for ensuring everything fits properly. Including the layers beneath. I felt my face go hot. Shuna, meanwhile, simply smiled and began preparing the accessories, acting like this was perfectly normal. She and helping her. I sighed, trying not to squirm as Ren slipped the black and gold gown from my shoulders with all the ceremony of a court ritual. She handled me like I was something delicate, precise, gentle, and completely in control. Within moments, I stood in the lighter underlayers, flushed and awkward while Ren picked up the banquet gown. Arms up, please, my lady, she said, voice like a breeze. I did as I was told, half in surrender, half out of sheer disbelief that this had become my life. The gown slid on like water, soft, weightless, flowing with every movement. Shuna fastened the front and adjusted the folds, while Ren circled behind me, tightening the bodice with quiet efficiency. Then came the accessories. Shuna brushed out my hair and began braiding in a few delicate pins, humming softly to herself. There, Ren murmured as she finished the last tie, smoothing the folds at my waist. Exquisite, my lady. I stared at my reflection. The woman in the mirror looked elegant, distant, graceful, like a high-born noble straight out of a fantasy novel. The dress fit like it was made for me. And somehow, this was me now. Too much, I asked weakly. Ren stepped into view, meeting my eyes in the mirror. Just enough, she said softly. You'll take their breath away. Shuna nodded in approval. Absolutely radiant. She grinned. No one's gonna remember the food. I buried my face in my hands. I was just a slime a few months ago. Shuna chuckled, gently patting my shoulder. And now look at you. A lady who makes royalty stare. That's not comforting. Ren stepped forward and gently lifted my hands from my face. Deep breath, my lady. Chin up. Posture perfect. Still, I obeyed. Somewhere between protest and surrender, I stood tall. There was a beat of silence. And then, less than you look stunningly beautiful, master. Greater than, I stiffened. My breath caught, heat flooding into my cheeks before I could even react. I cut myself off, biting down on the sudden protest. That voice, serene, genuine, almost reverent, had come from inside me. Raphael never spoke without reason. She wasn't teasing me. That somehow made it worse. My face burned. I quickly looked away from the mirror, pretending to smooth the front of the dress. As if that would calm the flurry in my chest. Don't just say stuff like that. I took a shaky breath. Then another. When the fluster finally ebbed just enough, I dared to turn back to the mirror again. And there she was. The woman in the reflection, poised, composed, wrapped in elegance. A layered, deep sapphire gown that hugged the figure just right, glinting softly with woven accents of silver and midnight blue. The soft updo framed her face delicately, with trailing wisps adding an effortless charm. That was me. Beautiful, I heard myself whisper. The word left my lips before I could stop it. So beautiful. I blinked. Wait, what? My heart dropped into my stomach. I just called myself beautiful. Out loud. What even? My hands flew to my face, pressing into my burning cheeks. No, this has to be Shizu. It's her will lingering inside me. Her memories, her grace, her strength, and maybe her vanity, too. That's it. That's the only reason I'd think something like that. And maybe, this is my punishment. For getting distracted with all this pageantry. Dressing up, playing noble, laughing, smiling, while those children are still suffering back at the academy. The guilt tightened in my chest like a coil. I have to finish up here as fast as I can. Then go save them, I promised. I looked up again, more firmly this time. The reflection didn't waver. Right, first things first. I steeled myself. Stop getting embarrassed by these clothes. This is just part of the mission. One more role to play. My fingers curled slightly against the dress fabric. The silk still felt unreal beneath my hands. Once this banquet's over, I'll make things right. Once the final hairpin was in place and every fold of the gown perfectly arranged, Ren stepped back with a soft nod of approval. Perfect, she murmured, hands folded in front of her apron. You're ready, my lady. Shuna smiled brightly. You look lovely, Lady Rimuru. Truly radiant. Xian gave a confident thumbs up. They won't remember the food. Just your entrance. Then Shuna turned slightly, glancing at Ren. We should go prepare as well. Lady Ren. Ren gave a courteous nod. Please, do. Xian raised an eyebrow. Aren't you changing too, Lady Ren? Ren replied without missing a beat. There is no need. I will attend the banquet as I am. Shuna blinked. In your uniform. Ren curtsied gracefully. A proper maid must remain a constant presence, composed, discreet, and ever at her lady's side. This uniform is a symbol of that duty. To alter it would be unbecoming. Shuna nodded slowly. It does suit you. You always carry yourself so flawlessly. Xian smiled and added, yeah, you look beautiful in that maid outfit, honestly. Ren tilted her head with a faint smile. How kind of you to notice. As they stepped toward the door, Shuna gave Rimuru one last approving glance. We'll go change now. We'll meet you both before the banquet begins. After Shuna and Xian left, the door clicked softly shut behind them. Brief silence settled in their absence. Ren knelt behind me, adjusting the last delicate fold of fabric with meticulous care. The room had gone quiet, save for the faint rustle of the gown. Then, she spoke too casually for it to be anything but teasing. I heard you whisper it earlier. Beautiful. I stiffened slightly, eyes avoiding hers in the mirror. I didn't mean to say it out loud. Ren tilted her head just slightly, a quiet curiosity in her gaze. I sighed, lowering my voice. It's just, I looked at myself, and the words slipped out. I guess, deep down, I thought I looked beautiful. But I don't think that's really me. It's probably Shizu's will, what's left of it, messing with my emotions. Making me more feminine, more like her. I paused, glancing at my reflection. And part of me feels like this is a punishment. Like I've been too slow to save those kids. Instead of focusing on them, I'm here dressing up for a banquet, playing noble. So maybe this is what I deserve, getting pulled further and further into this role that's not really mine. Ren stood, meeting my eyes in the mirror. Let's forget about Shizu's will for just a moment, she said gently. Just answer me this honestly, do you enjoy dressing up? I blinked. I don't know. I think I do. I feel like I'm enjoying it. I look like Shizu, a young, beautiful woman. And when I dress up like this, I feel even more beautiful. I frowned faintly, but I also feel like I'm enjoying it because of Shizu's will. Like, it's not my feeling. It's hers. Ren stepped closer, her reflection steady and calm beside mine. And what's the problem with that? She asked softly. Even if you think it's Shizu's will, it's still you feeling it, isn't it? You're genderless. And you look like a girl. So what's wrong with enjoying how that makes you feel? I hesitated. She didn't wait. Besides, she added, brushing a stray strand of hair from my shoulder with practiced grace, even if you don't enjoy it, Shuna, Xian, and I certainly do. So wouldn't it be better for everyone if you enjoyed it too? But, I tried, unsure. Ren gently straightened the edge of my sleeve, her touch light but grounding. If you're really uncertain, she said, voice steady, then once this diplomatic trip is over, go save the children. Fulfill your promise. And after that, once you've lifted that guilt, you can ask yourself again, is this how you feel, or someone else's echo? I watched her quietly. Something in her words settled my thoughts. No matter what you decide, she said, lifting her chin, as your royal maid, I'll support your choice. Always. I smiled. It came more easily this time. Thank you, Ren. She blinked at me, flustered just slightly, and turned her gaze away. It's nothing, my lady. Then, came the quiet voice in my mind. Less than I sense a new rival. Greater than. What was that, Raphael? Less than it is your imagination, master. Greater than. I opened my mouth to ask Raphael what she meant, brow furrowing slightly. Wait, what do you mean by? Knock knock. A soft, composed tapping broke the quiet. Shuna's voice called gently from the other side. My lady, we're ready. May we come in? I blinked, caught off guard, then let the breath I'd been holding slip out. Probably just my imagination, I murmured, brushing the thought away. Without missing a beat, Ren slipped seamlessly into her perfect maid persona, back straight, hands folded, expression calm and composed. You may enter, she said smoothly, her voice poised and professional. The door opened, and Shuna and Xian stepped in gracefully, already dressed for the banquet. They looked prepared, elegant, and ready to steal the show in their own right, but all I could think about now was keeping my expression calm and steady. Ren turned to me just slightly, eyes sharp beneath her serene surface. Shall we be off, my lady? I gave a small nod and tried not to fidget with the sleeves of my gown. Yeah, let's get this over with. The golden glow of chandeliers lit our path as we approached the banquet hall. Ren walked with poise at my side, while Shuna and Xian followed in elegant step. My heels clicked softly on the polished stone, the weight of my gown trailing behind like a whisper. As we turned the last corner, a few station knights and castle maids waiting near the doorway straightened at the sight of us. Their reactions were subtle, but I noticed the sideways glances, the quiet intake of breath, the slight widening of eyes. She's the one from Tempest. She looks like a noble lady. That dress is exquisite. A knight near the doorway stiffened, unsure whether to salute or bow. Another murmured, that's Lady Ren behind her, right? One of the maids, a young girl with braided hair, clutched her tray a little tighter. She's so elegant, she looks like a goddess in maid uniform. I forced myself to keep my head high, gaze forward. Just like Ren had taught me. Then, smoothly, Ren stepped forward and pushed the double doors open. Presenting Lady Rimuru, she announced, her voice calm and formal. The banquet hall was grand, but it wasn't crowded. There were no nobles or officials, just a large table in the center, King Gazel rising from his seat with a composed smile. A few castle maids quietly lined the walls, ready to serve. I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. King Gazel gave a shallow bow. Welcome, Lady Rimuru. You honor us tonight. I curtsied gracefully, at least, I hoped it was graceful. Thank you for having me, Your Majesty. He gestured to the seat beside him. Please, join me. Ren, always a step behind, pulled out the chair for me. I sat carefully, arranging my gown just as she had instructed earlier. Shuna and Xian followed suit, settling into their places. The maids began serving with quiet efficiency, gliding through the room like shadows. The meal was exquisite, but the etiquette was exhausting. I was too busy remembering which fork to use and when to speak to actually enjoy most of the food. Shuna, ever poised, helped lighten the mood with gentle conversation. Xian behaved, mostly. I kept sending her warning glances whenever she looked like she was going to ask for seconds a little too enthusiastically. Ren, standing silently behind me, radiated poise. The castle maids seemed to admire her even more than they admired me. One of them almost dropped a pitcher when she passed too close, whispering, "She's so perfect." As the final course was cleared, King Gazel leaned toward me slightly, lowering his voice. Now then, do you have time to speak in private? I nodded. Yes, I'd appreciate that. He gave a short nod. Good. Meals like this were for politeness and diplomacy, never for saying what you really meant. A single slip of the tongue could bind someone to a promise they weren't ready to make. I understood the king's caution. It was smart. Truth be told, I'd been concentrating so hard on his tone and my posture that I hadn't had a chance to think of anything else. King Gazel stood, and so did I. This way, he said, leading me toward a quieter room nearby. Ren followed behind like a shadow, and Shuna and Xian trailed quietly. Once out of sight of the main hall, I let out a small sigh. That was a good meal, I said to Shuna, but I didn't get much time to enjoy it. Shuna smiled. I found it delightful. So many rare ingredients. I glanced over my shoulder. Xian could stand to learn a little from you, though. Shuna laughed softly. Maybe, but I think she did fine. As long as no one was offended, then it's fine. Dot 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 dot. Dot 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 dot. Dot 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 dot. The king and I were seated in two padded chairs facing each other in the softly lit private chamber. Vaughn and Dolph stood silently behind him, their posture sharp and alert. Shuna stood just behind me to the right, her expression serene and composed, radiating poise fitting for a high-ranking aide. Xian stood to my left, unusually upright and serious, maintaining formal decorum under the king's gaze. Ren had just excused herself to retrieve refreshments, moving with quiet efficiency through the door. Even in her absence, it felt like her presence lingered, disciplined and reliable, as always. The room settled into a respectful stillness, the kind that invited honesty and careful words. The king and I were seated in two padded chairs facing each other across a low, polished table. Vaughn and Dolph stood quietly behind him, ever watchful. Shuna stood behind me, composed and graceful, her posture subtly protective. Xian, thankfully positioned to the side this time rather than directly behind me, remained unusually quiet, though the way her eyes scanned the room reminded me she was ready to throw hands at the slightest provocation. Ren had gone to retrieve refreshments, gliding off with practiced elegance that even the castle's head staff might envy. The other maids in the hall had paused to admire her, one even whispering something to a fellow attendant with barely concealed awe. It was hard to blame them. Ren had a way of making the maid uniform look like high court fashion. Meanwhile, King Gazel leaned back in his seat with a casual grin, arms folded. You were probably so nervous, you could barely even taste what you were eating, right? He said with a booming laugh. Ha 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 ha, let me tell you something. Diplomacy is all just one big bluff. If you act like that, don't complain if people feel they have the right to run you over. I sighed. You say that, but Vester gave me his personal seal of approval. HMPH, the king snorted. As skittish as he is, I'm sure he was simply going easy on the master he serves. Even though his words were blunt, there was no heat behind them. If anything, they were strangely comforting, like getting scolded by a gruff uncle who meant well. Well, I replied, forcing a small smile, I'll do better next time. Heh heh heh, Gazel rumbled, lifting his goblet. I'm much more comfortable wielding a sword than navigating these types of negotiations, too. Shuna gave me a calm, encouraging look. And though Ren hadn't returned yet, I could almost hear the quiet steps of her approach down the hall. Just as I finished offering my thanks, the door opened with a soft click. Ren returned, a silver tray balanced effortlessly in her hands. A pristine bottle of whiskey and 5 intricately cut glasses shimmered faintly under the chamber's lighting. She glided across the floor with quiet precision, each step controlled, posture flawless. Without a word, she approached King Gazel first. Bowing smoothly, she offered him a glass with both hands. He accepted it with a nod, eyes already studying the craftsmanship. Next, she turned to his 2 attendants Vaughn and Dolph. Each received their glass with a short, respectful dip of the head, though both seemed slightly flustered by her poise. One of them muttered a soft, "Thank you," under his breath. Then Ren stepped to my side, bowed, and presented me the last glass. I nodded in appreciation and took it. Gazel turned his glass in the light. Is this one of Dold's? It is, I replied. The king gave a faint grunt of interest, examining the glass more closely. It shimmered slightly clear, finely cut, almost radiant under the flickering light. Intricate etchings danced along the rim and base, easy to miss at a glance, but impossible to ignore once spotted. He narrowed his eyes. And this magic, antidote enchantment? I nodded again. A subtle one. Useful, just in case. Ho. With a small hum of approval, he activated the enchantment. A faint shimmer passed over the surface of the whiskey. Ren had already stepped back behind me by then, folding her hands in front of her apron, expression unreadable, her maid persona fully engaged. Gazel brought the glass to his lips. The moment the scent reached him, his eyes widened in surprise. Ho. A very elegant aroma, he murmured. He didn't rush it. He took his time, swirling the amber liquid gently, savoring the rising fragrance like a true connoisseur. A king, sure, but a dwarf through and through. Me, I wasn't quite as composed. I took a casual gulp. I could feel something hot burn through my throat as I imagined my head catching on fire. Sadly, it lasted for a mere instant. Less than report. Poison resistance, successful. Greater than, tragic. Still, watching others enjoy it had to be enough. I stole a glance at King Gazel. My, he said, taking his first proper sip. A pause, then a satisfied nod. He didn't flinch, didn't cough. Unlike poor Yom, the king met the liquor head on and handled it like a pro. Dwarven pride, I guess. It was nice to see someone appreciate it properly. After we enjoyed the drinks for a bit, Gazel leaned forward with a serious glint in his eye. So, Rimuru, that magical weapon you used to defeat Charybdis, what was it, exactly? I've heard it was more powerful than anything our mages have ever seen. Ah, that, I gave a small shrug. It wasn't me, that was Milam. One attack, and Charybdis was down. Yes, well, that would explain a number of things, Gazel muttered, stroking his beard. But why would a demon lord like her be there? That I cannot say. If you claim Milam was with you, could you explain exactly what led to that? Now the king had turned the conversation back on me. Both Dolph and Vaughn were watching closely. Well, it's kind of a long story, I admitted, setting my glass down. But let's start with what happened after I left this kingdom last time. And so I told them about my return, the troubles I ran into, how I crossed paths with Milam, and how things spiraled from there. They listened in silence, sipping brandy and sampling the spread of finger food. By the time I wrapped up, nearly a third of the barrel was gone. Good pace. If it had been beer, we'd be scraping the bottom by now. That does seem to make sense, but... Gazel began, his brows furrowing. The very idea of taming that demon lord. Imagine, Vaughn added, still visibly trying to process it. Hard to believe, indeed, Dolph muttered. But we do have reports of a young girl taking a central role in the battle. The three exchanged glances, each mulling over the implications in their own way. I shrugged lightly. Taming, I wouldn't go that far. She just decided to hang around. That, in itself, is remarkable, Gazel replied, leaning back in his chair. Demon lords don't just do anything. Still, if Milam truly stood at your side, that explains why Charybdis fell so decisively. He picked up his glass once more, taking a thoughtful sip as the room settled into quiet contemplation again. Our conversation gradually shifted, flowing from battlefield tales to recent developments in our respective nations. King Gazel spoke of new mining veins and industrial expansion. I mentioned our city's rapid growth and budding trade routes. We also exchanged notes on research, magic tech integration, potion refinement, transportation enchantments. It was oddly satisfying, swapping notes like two enthusiastic scholars instead of heads of state. Eventually, Gazel brought up something else. Tomorrow's ceremony, he said, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. We'll be making our declaration of friendship official, for all the people to see. I nodded. So I heard. It's a good step. I think seeing us standing together publicly will help put everyone's minds at ease. The king grunted in agreement, then glanced down at his drink. Speaking of putting minds at ease, this whiskey of yours is something else. That was enough to change the topic again, and before long, the knight's attention had settled squarely on the barrel I'd brought. We spent a good while discussing its distillation process, flavor notes, and the magical filtration techniques I'd experimented with. If nothing else, at least my whiskey had won over a king. Not long after, the meeting came to an end. With pleasantries exchanged and glasses emptied, we bowed our farewells. Ren gracefully led the way out with Shuna and Xian close behind me. As we stepped into the quiet corridor, the weight of the formalities finally lifted from my shoulders. To be continued.